Welcome to another HVAC Insider Series Masterclass brought to you by Breezy. I'm your host, as always, CJ Todd, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you all. So my friends, today we are here to address one of the most frustrating challenges in the trades, and that is hiring. Specifically, what happens when you, the owner, are the HR department of one, right? Most companies feel stuck in a constant hiring loop. Maybe there's too many resumes, not good candidates, and no real system holding that whole process together. So the truth is, hiring chaos, it's not always a people problem. It's more so a process problem. And today's guest has built a process that actually works at scale. Roslyn Fitzgibbons is here to walk us through the recruiting funnel every HR department needs to regain control and hire with confidence. Super pumped to introduce you guys to Roslyn Fitzgibbons. So Roz has spent nearly 2 decades helping eco plumbers scale from a small operation to a $95 million home service company. She has built recruiting, onboarding, and internal systems that supported their rapid growth, acquisitions, and expansions, all while keeping their positive culture and the expectations front and center. So Roslyn is a Lean Six Sigma black belt. Roz, I'm going to need you to explain a little bit about what that is. She is an EOS facilitator, which is an incredible system to operate your business, and a true process builder with a passion for helping contractors. Today, she's going to break down the HR department of one recruiting funnel, including staffing huddles, applicant tracking, and how to recruit to reality, which helps candidates vet themselves out of the process before you have to waste time interviewing them. So if you want to connect with her after the call today, she is open to a free 30 minutes and get on her calendar. She is an incredible resource, and she can really help kind of explain some of the things that we're going to learn today in a little bit more detail and help you implement. So with all of that said, we are very fortunate to have Roslyn join us today. Roslyn, welcome to the show. And if you wouldn't mind, kick us off by telling us what a Lean Level 6 Sigma black belt is.
Thank you, CJ, for the introduction and the opportunity to share with your Breezy fans today. I'm thrilled to be able to talk on this topic and share anything that I've learned along the way. But yeah, I'm very passionate about bringing Lean Six Sigma to the trades. Not very common, but Lean is the flow of systems, and Six Sigma is the data variances that find the root cause and the issues that are inside those systems. And so basically being a Lean Six Sigma black belt just gives me the label of saying I'm an expert in leading complex process improvement initiatives that are eliminating waste and reducing defects, and all while doing the number one best thing everybody wants, which is creating more profitable systems. And we want to do that with data-driven, sustainable systems. So it's a lot that goes into it, but it's a wonderful field to be in. I love bringing this to the trades and getting people to improve processes. So continuous improvement's my jam. So thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. You might as well have been speaking Mandarin in that kind of outline, because that all seems very complex. And knowing what I know about you and knowing what I know about what you've done at Eco, that seems like it's necessary. And we all need someone in our corner that is much smarter than us. And I think you are very much smarter than me. And I am so glad to know you now.
We talked about, CJ, this on we're all needed in different areas, and I was needed for you on the technology side of how to even make sure this webinar was going to run correctly. So we all have our strengths, but today I'm hoping that I'm going to provide one of my strengths to all of you, and you guys will be able to implement this into your company in the trades, whether that's HVAC, electrical, plumbing. Eco Plumbers was plumbers first before we added HVAC and electrical. So again, as CJ said, we did scale from 0 to 95 million, but at one point I was the HR department of one. So I completely relate. Not only was I just the HR person, I was also the dispatch manager, call center manager, office manager. I know so many of you can relate to that, where you're just wearing all of the hats. and that can get really tough. And so I hope what I can provide to you today is a little bit of insight into even just the methodology of how you think about improving a process, and take some of these skills and say, where else could I maybe think about how to make some improvements. But today we're going to talk about my recruiting funnel, and we're going to start with talking about let me get my slide to switch over here. That it all starts with that staffing huddle. So you might say, well, my HR department of one, who am I meeting with? Anybody in your company that is part of the hiring process. So if you allow your service manager to do interviewing, your call center manager, whomever is in the hiring process with you, you want to make sure you stay aligned. So start early with a 30 to 45-minute huddle. As you scale, it's going to get even more and more important that you're having this meeting and understanding that your recruiter, your hiring manager, and everybody is on the same page with what are the budgets and projections, what's the attrition look like, and then that pipeline. And so why I say that all the hiring managers are to attend with or without active posting. So if you say, well, my dispatch manager doesn't need to attend because we don't have any active listings for dispatcher, where I would challenge you to think a little bit differently on that is, when we know how budgets and projections work in our company, and we have to stay aligned to an operating model that is one dispatcher to 7 techs or one dispatcher to 14, maybe however you've aligned it. If your call volume has increased and your service manager is now asking for 4 technicians and gets approval, your dispatch manager now needs to hear that information and say, whoa, I don't have approval for another dispatcher. Can I get that, or can we take that on? And that way our budget is staying aligned with the hiring model that we've put in place, probably annually at that point. But again, so get everybody in the room. It's extremely helpful. It's a great 30 minutes to make sure everybody's aligned on who you have in the pipeline, when are interviews happening, who's doing the interview. If you need to, make sure that you have a time for feedback baked in there as well. But ultimately, just making sure that it's there and the time is set aside for everybody to stay aligned. All right, the ATS. And I don't want anybody to feel like I don't have a large, HRIS system. So that would be your human resources information system. So if you're not on something like that, that offers an ATS inside it, that's absolutely okay. Because we didn't for a long time. We actually were on Airtable first and built our ATS in there. And when we switched to Monday.com, if anybody are familiar with either of those softwares, Monday.com was actually an amazing platform to build an ATS in. It made it super easy. We were able to streamline tons of stuff inside there, from integrating surveys and links and the tracking. So again, you can easily create an ATS inside any one of your project management softwares, down to just even a Google spreadsheet. So those things have gotten really robust now and offer a ton of things that you can do. So don't shy away from even just the utilization of the good old spreadsheet. But do some of the upfront work to make it as automated as you possibly can. And again, that's a streamlining thing. Where can you click a button, have a link go out? So just pay attention to what's available to you as you're building this out, so that you are not creating more manual steps for your recruiter or for yourself. If you're HR department of one, that's what we're here for. But once you have this tracking system in place, you can post as many roles as you want. So a little bit of the fear of over posting is, how am I tracking them, right? And who's coming in, where they go, and what role are they applying for? And the inbox is just full of all different types of roles and people, especially installers and warehouse people, and, you need helpers. And if you are a little bit, have your own call center on site, the roles can become endless in the trades industry, because we're not just providing that service, we're marketing, we're all these things all in one, and there's a ton of roles that have to get posted. So, but Don't worry, because once you've built the system and you can post as many as you want, you're going to be able to respond to everybody. And I'm going to walk you through that funnel. So don't be scared, but you won't read a single resume from the start. I know how it usually works. They start applying, you start jumping over, reading the resume, you're looking at them. We're not going to read a single resume in the beginning. There's no phone screening, no phone calls to set up interviews, no emailing back and forth, no being ghosted at the interview time where you just walk up to the front door every hour on the hour and next one's not here and you're like, okay, great, wish I could have had that hour back. And this is going to sound morbid, but it's all because in 2017 my grandfather passed away, and my brother and I decided that there had to be a better way, and I'm going to explain that to you. So we were headed off to the funeral, and it was about an 8-hour drive. And I looked at my brother and I said, you're going to drive, which is normal anyway, but I was like, you're going to drive this because I've got to look for call center reps and I've got a ton of applicants to go through. Like, I'm just going to sit here and read resumes. And we're chit-chatting work stuff, and I'm just reading resumes, and I'm just like, I'm complaining. Let's face it, I was like complaining like the whole time. I'm just like, this is terrible. None of these people are any good. This is awful. And I'm just like, this is such a waste of my time. They don't even show up. And so I'm giving them all the, what for on this hiring thing that I'm doing. And finally, we're just like, gosh, there's just got to be a better way to do this. Like, what if you just like invited them all at once? Like, could you just like group interview? And I was like, okay, nobody's going to show up for like a group interview and like just start firing questions off and I'm like, I don't even think that's legal, like to be asking people questions in front of other people. I don't know, right? But anyway, it was the open conversation and the dialogue that then allowed us to say, okay, but what could it look like? But what could we do that would make that look a little different and make things a little better for us? And so I really took the time to dig into figuring out, how do I streamline this for myself? I cannot continue to go on this way. And so I started with my posting and tracking for the roles and decided that the first thing I need to do is create this template. And this template is going to make sure that it's streamlined. I know exactly what I want for each one of these positions. I'm going to track them all because at this point I'm losing them in the Google Drive and I don't know what role I wrote, or I wrote it like externally on the job posting, but I didn't actually like file it away. So then I created a spreadsheet that just had all the titles for all the jobs. And then I linked the job description template right to it, so I could never lose them. And then I made a little extra column that just said, when's the last time I updated this and when's the last time I posted it? And that was just the basic start to being like, okay, get organized. Let's start from the basics. Another key point that I want to make sure is that when you say, when's the last time I updated or when's the last time I posted it, you also want to remember, where are you posting? And so a lot of people will tend to forget about that website, and you have that careers page and it's just sitting there getting outdated, or you took one down and you didn't put it back up. And because getting around to your website all the time, if you don't have a marketing team, is tough. So make sure you're noting like, hey, I put these up on the website. I put them on this job board. I offered them over here if you have LinkedIn and some different places, that you might use a ZipRecruiter. So notate where you're posting your jobs as well to just help keep yourself organized. And my biggest tip in this slide is make an email box that is just for recruiting. So obviously, just being me, at first, everybody was emailing me. At the time, it was Roslyn at ecoplumbers.com. And as we scaled and I wanted to hand all this stuff off, everything said my email on it. And I was like, well, that doesn't work. And then we needed a universal one. And so no matter what size you are, even if you are larger or whatever, recruiters are going to change hands. Hiring is going to change hands at times. And so do yourself the favor and just join the trades at we're GetEco now, but join the trades at geteco.com, and there's one email box. And if somebody has to fill in and somebody else went on vacation, all you do is log into that email box and everybody knows and everything's right there. All the canned responses that you need. So again, big call out there, just make a join the trades or recruiting at, however you'd like to say it, but that was just ours. Ours is join the trades. All right, so the exciting part, we're getting into talking about how this funnel actually works. So you've created these templates, you've got your tracking system, and everybody's applying. It's wonderful. 250 people just applied, right? Just email box gets full overnight. And you're going to just respond to every single person that came in. And so whether you have an email box that is linked to your posting platform, or you have to go to the actual posting platform and make a response, either way is fine. But create that canned email that looks the same for everybody. And inside that email is a link to sign up for an in-person tour date or a virtual session. We're going to talk about that here in a second. So all you're doing is hitting reply to every single person, and it's like, hey, thank you for your submission. We're excited to have you explore us a little more. We want to get to know you, but we also want you to get to know us. And if you want to take the time and sign up for, and they can click a Calendly link, they can, however, whatever you function through, and they can find a date to either come in person and tour you, because we did in-person tours for the longest time. We did not do any virtual tours, but I think you can all imagine that when COVID hit, hiring did not stop. And we had to pivot, and we created virtual tours, and we just did them on Zoom, and that was wonderful and it worked great. And so we just never went away from that. But eventually we brought back the in-person tours because some people do want to come and physically see the space. So that's a little bit there on why we have both the in-person tour and the virtual session. But everybody gets this invite. And I'll tell you what's wonderful about this is your response score on any of your platforms is going to also increase. So the very next morning you've come in, it takes maybe 15 minutes, depending on how many people applied. It was always the first thing I did in the morning. I just came in and start clicking my auto responses to all the emails, got those all sent back out. And then your ZipRecruiter or whatever your rating is, it'll say that you have a high response rate or rapid response. So that's another side perk to this that is a win, that you get to have a higher rating on your profile on those accounts. So, so anyone who then attends your tour, virtually or in person, is then asked to email you at the end. And so you do this wonderful tour, and we're going to talk about it. And you're just like, hey, if you loved us, we want to hear from you. If you're still interested and you felt like this was great, awesome. You know, and if it's not for you, that's okay too. You know, hopefully you call us for service, right? But I like to put a QR code up at the end so they can just scan it quickly. You can put the email up there, whatever it might be. So then just make sure you offer that at the end of the slides or end of your tour. Now they're going to email you, because they're all hyped up, they're all excited, this place is great, or not, and that's okay, because if they don't think it's great, that's not who we wanted anyway. So now they're going to email you, and you're going to give them a short survey, something that they can click and complete. Oh, I'm so glad to hear from you. Give me your name, your last name, you know, your phone number, email address, whatever you might want in there. Ask them for their resume, optional, or you can go look it up in your platform. And this survey is going to be linked back into your ATS. So remember, you want to make sure that all of this is flowing back in so that you're collecting your data collection, right? What role are you applying for? You can add in any sort of assessment or pre-screening that you like to use. Maybe you're a one-score user or a DISC user. If you're not, that's okay too. But anything like that that you want in this questionnaire that basically puts them back in front of you and provides you enough information to now determine if this candidate is the right fit for next steps. And then you can move forward with an interview or a job shadowing schedule. So that's kind of the overview of how it works. I'm going to dig into a couple of the details for you guys. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat. CJ and I will try to catch them, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, so when we talk about that presentation that they're going to see, in person, virtual, doesn't matter. You're going to have the same presentation deck available. Obviously, just on virtual, you're going to be sans the touring the building, but that's okay. So you're going to build a presentation that shares the history, who you are, where you came from, some historical data points, paint that vision and showcase your culture, show that party slide, show those rewards and recognition, and really like who you are at the foundation. Absolutely put your goals in there in the vision. What are you trying to accomplish? What does 2026 look like for a company? What's the 3-year, the 5-year if you're an EOS user? Get that annual plan in there, get the VTO in there, show them who they are coming to work for. And so if they're in person, you're going to tour them around the entire building. This is probably one of my favorite things to do. I will say the first couple times I did it, I was like just sweating down my back, like walking around, just like, this is so awkward, and I'm just like walking around. But by the time we got so used to it, everybody in the warehouse was like ready and waving, and they're like, here she comes with her tour, and like Roslyn's coming through. Everybody got used to it, and actually it was like a lot of fun, and we were used to having the tour group. So I'd have anywhere from 3 to 4 people. Up until one point we had an open session where hiring was really high, that I had to move us out of the conference room and into our tech room because we had like 40 people. And so actually moving around the building was like not even great, because like people couldn't hear me in the back, and I was like, oh. So I will say, if you want to create like how many people can sign up, keep that in mind as a improvement point, that maybe you have to cut it off at like 10 people can sign up per session, just given like the seating that you have or the maneuverability around your building. Obviously virtual, you can have as many people on as you want. But anyway, we introduced them along the way, toured them around. They got to see the call center. They got to walk through the warehouse and check things out and see all our TV screens and our numbers and all this type of stuff. We'd let them ask questions, so I'd stop in any of the areas. If there happened to be a warehouse employee around and they wanted to ask like, oh, what does this look like for you guys in the day? And the warehouse person would be like, yeah, sure, no problem. So yeah, we spend, first half in the morning unloading trucks, and inventory comes at 6:30. It was great. They got to learn all types of stuff. I say it is great. I just don't do them anymore. I haven't had to do them for a long time. It was great for me. Somebody else is enjoying it now.
Hey, Ross, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Sweet. So you said, between 3 and 40 people coming to the in-person tour. What's the engagement on these virtual recruit to reality sessions? And then wondering if you could kind of ballpark what like a conversion from that point. I'm sure you're going to get into like, what the attrition is on each of these steps of the funnel, but that's just something that kind of stuck out to me, is that like, sounds like an incredible in-person experience. Does the virtual version have the same impact?
So it doesn't, unfortunately. We try to do the best with the slides, and adding in a recruiting video that they can watch that's like a few minutes long, that just kind of has a little bit more of the culture and personality in it, but ultimately it's virtual and you're not really meeting the people. We have slides that we would put in that are specifically speaking on people, like, hey, this is Ellen from the call center, and now she's the dispatch manager, and we would show career progression so that people could see people growing through these roles and where they're at now. And hey, this person started in warehouse, now he's inside sales, and like all this stuff. So I do think you should attempt to keep it a little more lively. And again, we were thrown into it because of COVID, but now that everybody's a little bit more comfortable with it, and like the poll, like asking a poll or getting people engaged. my recruiter would say that like a lot of people don't have their cameras on, or I can tell they're driving, or they're like doing stuff and they're not even looking at the slides. And so you are fighting a little bit of that. But people signed up for them. It wasn't that they didn't. We offered a lot of different times too. So we were always testing like what times got the most. So if we did a Monday at 2 and then we did a Tuesday at lunchtime, or we tried to do a really early one or a late in the day. And so we were always trying to offer them at different spots to see which one would get the most attendance. So again, just keep testing and figuring out when you get it. As far as exact numbers on them, I should look that up so I have it. But again, we ended up capping it eventually at 20 for the virtuals, because the recruiter said that if they started asking too many questions, it just got to be too many. And so she always just put the invite at 20.
Right. Well, if you like the Breezy HVAC Insider Series webinars, I can produce webinars for you and your recruitment funnels as well, attendees. So
there you go, guys.
Yeah, send me a message.
That's awesome. I bet they'd be beautiful too. Just like, yeah, dang, that's a good plug. Good call, man. All right, skin
Shameless
in the game.
plug.
Skin in the game. All right, so individuals who've gone the extra step to communicate, explore the company, are more likely to attend these interviews. So you say, well, now I have to read the resumes. Well, sure, but they're more likely to be people of value and who have presented to you that they are willing to make the extra effort and come and see, and that they are interested. So they tend to be more clear on what the opportunity is and understanding of the company and its values. If they don't want to participate, and then again, no time has been wasted for you. So that's what I feel like is wonderful. So at this point, it's all automated, it's set up. If 10 show up or 2 show up, you're still given the same tour. But individuals who do not meet the standard or agree with those core values that you're presenting are ultimately going to vet themselves out. So I can imagine, as Breezy users or just people in the industry who are seeking this type of advice and advancement and improvement, you're probably a company who is a cut above. And when individuals come and tour your company that is this cut above, and they see that you have this presentation and these standards and these core values, and the metrics are up and the numbers are showing, they're likely to be like, whoa, that's not for me. I thought this was just going to be some like garage plumbing company, and that's not what I was expecting, right? And you're like, no, we're not just some other plumbing company. We've got it going on. We're looking for the people that want to be here and want to move the needle. And if they know that that's not them, then they're not going to scan that QR code and they're not going to show back up, because they already know that you're looking for people who are ready to be part of a growing company. Particularly if you show a historical slide that shows growth and you have that VTO in there to show like, this is what we're working on, this is where we're going. They're either going to be excited and want to be part of that, or they're going to vet themselves out. All right, so one of my favorite topics is the ride and decide. And I know this is fairly more common in the industry than it was maybe 10 years ago when we were implementing it. So I apologize if this is repeat information for all of you out there that are already doing this, but I think you can agree with me, if you are doing it, that it is a wonderful way to be hiring. And so the ride and decides, or working interviews, or shadowing, however you kind of want to look at it, these are my tips for doing this. So now let's back up. We've got their survey back. We want to move forward with them, and we want to get them scheduled. And one of the common questions that I would get is, why are we having an experienced HVAC guy have to go through all this? Like, just get him in here. And nothing is stopping your recruiter who has maybe a high push for an HVAC installer to not still pick up the phone and say, hey, can you come do this ride and decide? I can schedule you for next Thursday. Does that work? Oh, by the way, I'm going to send you a link to jump on a tour so you can hear about the company before you come. Nothing stops you from accelerating the process and being a proactive and recruiter. This is just allowing you as a department of one maybe to kind of autopilot some of it for yourself. But the minute you have those ones that are flagged as like high demand or, senior tech or whatever it might be, by all means, you still get on the horn, man, make that call, get them interested, let them hear your voice, make sure they're scheduled. Don't just be passive about it. Post and pray is not the intent here. By any means. But so once you get them invested in your company and wanting to be a part of what you have going on, you're going to need to designate a company-centric tech to help. While we want to believe that all of our technicians just love our companies and they just have all the best things to say, and we want that, some of them don't want people in their trucks. So we have to be very mindful that their day just does not welcome extra visitors, and that's okay. And we want to find the one that is like, I want a friend, give me the buddy, I love to chat, I can't wait to chat this person up.
Also make sure their trucks are clean.
Yes, and they're going to be the one who has a clean truck. Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, so add in all those extra caveats that have to go along with being your designated help for this. And they're going to go to maybe 1 or 2 calls. Absolutely pay for lunch because every technician loves a free lunch, and you get feedback from the tech. So again, this builds a lot of rapport with your technician, that they feel included, that they feel valued, that their opinion matters on who they believe will be a good culture fit for them, their team, and that they want them on their team, right? They want to be part of something, or they want them, to be part of something that they are a part of as well. So you're going to make sure you get feedback from the tech on how it went. You can even go the extra step and get feedback from the applicant on how the day went. Did you like it? Was 2 calls okay? All that type of stuff. And those are important. You don't have to jump to something like that right away, but it's something called VOC, and we'll talk about that in another slide. But understanding how their experience went is important as well. And when I say check with your state laws, or ours required waiver only. We didn't have to pay them. We didn't ask them to do any physical work. They weren't out putting in a HVAC unit for us for free for the day. They just riding along with either a sales guy or a service guy. And the waiver just said, that they're not allowed to drive the truck, all that type of stuff. But we're in the state of Ohio, job shadowing is fine, and we do not have to pay them. In your state, you might have different laws, and you might require a payment be made. And so there are one-offs where you can pay people and submit it without them actually being under payroll. So again, little nuances you just got to look into. I just want to be clear that every state's a little different there. But
I could imagine my lovely state of California being complex with that.
Right.
I have a couple of questions. Is now a good time to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have kind of a playbook of what the tech and the applicant should be doing on those calls?
We do have a set of questions that I don't know if it's questions, it's more like a punch list. Yes, this is what we want you looking for. And when we get the feedback from the tech, we're looking for, were they friendly with the customer? Did they ask questions? How did you rate them, on a 1 to 5 skill wise? Did they understand technology? Did they ask questions about the iPad or, the Breezy software, why they were, riding with you, right? How well did they know any of the CRM, or have they had experience with it? So yes, you do want to create a punch list of what they're actually observing while they're with them. But like I said, we only try to do 2 calls. We just want, obviously if their first call sells, and they need to stay, and it just kind of ends up that way, you just got to be ready to pivot. I can honestly tell you though, there has been times where managers have had to go pick people up. So just be prepared. If you send them with somebody who's a really good selling tech, and that's all great, but that guy sells it and then they're there, you might be going picking up that ride and decide because it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and that guy's like, is anybody, I'm still out here. Somebody come and get me. That has happened. It's not so common, but it absolutely has. So your hiring manager might be ready to make a run. Did you have another question?
For
Question,
sure.
CJ?
Yeah, that's a good point. My other question is, I'm wondering if this write and decide kind of shadowing framework could be successfully implemented for other roles.
Yeah, I'll stop here and talk about that though. I think I have like a little blip of it in another one,
Cool.
but that's a great question. So, yes, and what we do for job shadowing for the call center is they will come in, check everything out, right? But they are asked to stay for about 2 hours and shadow another one of the call center reps. And this is probably one of the most important roles for them to shadow outside of technician, because we all know that our call center reps are amazing and they are asked to do way more than I think any other call center. Like the amount of stuff that our reps know. I mean, I was one for a long time, so I'm like, man, I know way more about plumbing than I ever thought I should. You're memorizing zip codes, all types of stuff. Your job types. You're basically borderline able to diagnose stuff, right? And learning software like a Breezy or any of the other ones, they're in depth, right? There's a lot to them. If your dispatchers are call center also, then they're kind of learning 2 roles. So it is really beneficial to have a call center rep shadow. But then what we ask them to do is, if it's important to you, you can have them do a typing test. You can have them do a mock call. We will have them click around on the system and just let them explore it in the sandbox mode. Does Breezy have sandbox?
Yeah.
Think so? Yeah, I'm sure it does. Okay. Let them click around in the sandbox, let them ask questions, see how quickly they pick it up. If it's just like second nature to them to be like clicking around in software and be like, oh, this is cool. Oh, I like that. So allowing them to take the controls and see where they go with it is another good one. And then for dispatchers, we have the dispatcher test, which is like a set of cards separate and has jobs on it. And you tell them like, there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to see where your mind goes. Because we all know in hiring for dispatchers, that is so niche. Like they're just not out there all over the place. Like, yep, I'm a dispatcher. Like, no, they typically come from your call center. Hopefully you get the call center person that you're just like, wow, you're really strategic and maybe your people skills aren't. What do you feel about dispatching? I'm teasing, but anyway, we have them move the cards around and develop what an ideal day would look like for 3 technicians, and then see if they're willing to reschedule somebody. And then we want to hear them reschedule. And so we say, okay, in your best customer service voice, please call this person and tell them that we can't get to them today. And you just want to hear, and you're like, you can say whatever you want. I just want to hear what you make up. And we don't care if they are like, hey, I'm going to give you your next service for free. Like we just want to see them approach that in a way that they were comfortable telling somebody, even in a mock situation, that they weren't going to get service today.
Love
so
that.
yeah, absolutely.
And they also get free lunch, right?
Yes, there's so much free lunch in the call center. I don't think there's ever any shortages of vendors bringing in all types of stuff. So, okay, so in the perfect it. So as a Lean Six Sigma practitioner, I can't help but constantly look at things. I'm CI at heart, which continuous improvement. You want to keep tweaking and refining. And you should be, right? We're always looking to make it a little bit better. And so what we want to be looking for is things that you can keep refining. So is it the way you take attendance that you can streamline? Maybe you used to have them fill out a name tag. Now you use an iPad for them to check in. That's a good example for us where we were like old school, a long time ago. And you're like, well, fill out your name tag and wear it. And then we started having them do a front desk check-in just on an iPad so they could just sign in really quick. Do you have a second helper? So again, I know we're talking to a lot of HR department at once, but is there somebody you can snag that's kind of helping you take notes while you're doing this tour? That way you're capturing things like, oh, this person asked good questions, they dress professionally. Let me jump. That's another great thing about having people come in person or virtual before is first impressions. Did somebody show up in sweatpants and a holey shirt, or did they come in, dressed really professional? Did they ask questions? And you're getting all of this in this more comfortable environment. That's not this like, I'm sweating, you're sweating, we're asking each other questions. It's just kind of this comfortable, when you're in numbers, there's strength in numbers, and you might ask something and because you feel a little bit more comfortable with saying like, oh, hey, how do you request time off? And you're just like, really? That's the first question you're gonna ask? How you take time off?
You said something that stuck out with me too. There's comfort in numbers, and the tour, I think, solves that from the applicant's perspective too. Because so many times the applicant comes in, and I've been on both sides of the table, right? It's one of them, and sometimes it's like 6 people interviewing them, and it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And if they are in a group of their peers, I think it's a little bit easier for their natural self to come out rather than this kind of role they might be playing, or, kind of being put on the spot and maybe not performing as well as they could have. So
Yeah.
I think that that's an interesting element.
Yes, we would, when we do the call center shadowing, and we would leave them and let them ask questions, you would find those things where the call center rep would say like all they cared about was knowing how to request time off, or because they felt like they were just sitting with their peer, and they would say things like, oh, they were friendly, but like they like asked a lot about like, oh, where do you go out, and like all types, and so you get a little bit more insight to some of it. So yeah, it's definitely creates a different experience where you can get some different insight. And then when we talk about like having that extra set of eyes, you're focused on presenting and answering questions. And so it's definitely nice to have a second set of hands who can help make sure additional questions or things are getting added, but it's not necessary if you don't have it. Do you add different assessment criteria? Maybe you have none right now, right? And that's okay. You're not signed up for a 1-score disc or anything like that. But in the future, do you start realizing that you would like to use one and you could add something in to the process? Or is it different for different roles? So when we hire somebody in leadership, they're required to also take the color code. Because we function on color code in our leadership roles, and we just want to know if that's a good avatar fit and what we're looking for in their color code. So you can also decide which roles get which assessments and stuff, but like always future planning there. And then the other one I want to hit on here is the inspect it. And so when you think about inspecting it is usually a lagging indicator. These things have happened after, right? And you're just like, why are we losing so many people within 90 days? Even after only a few days, why did they not? And then we realize, well, are you setting clear expectations for this role? What did we not go over enough why they were here or why they were interviewing? What did we miss? Was it in the interviewing process or was it in the onboarding process? And most importantly, did anybody simply check in on them? We had a process in place for a long time for stay interviews. When I transferred roles out of being the director of administration, as most things do in companies and handoffs, they stopped doing stay interviews. And it's one of those things you rediscover later and you're like, whoa, what happened? How come our HR people aren't hitting those stay interviews and getting that benefit from hearing what's going on with the individual and course correcting in good ways and, in bad ways, et cetera, where you can catch things. But definitely inspect, you can't set this up and not go back and revisit it and evaluate what's going on. And where that comes from is that what's called VOC, and that is voice of the customers. Yeah, stay interviews versus exit interviews. This is stay interview. 100%. They're not leaving. They didn't tell you they're leaving. You're just like, hey, I'm Roslyn. Wanted to hear how things are going. Are you enjoying it? I hired you. I told you all these things. How does it look? Are we meeting those expectations of what you wanted? My favorite question in stay interview is, actually I have two. One is, what is one thing that I could do today to make your work life better? And you will get the best answers because they are usually the simplest things that you can fix for them. I can guarantee you most of the time it's with technicians. They'll look at me and say, can I have another one of those hats? I like the one with the camo on it. Absolutely, buddy. I got an extra one of those for you. In the call center, one of my dispatchers was like, my chair is so uncomfortable. My back hurts every day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Like, I'm so glad you told me that. And I literally went in and ordered her a new chair. It was like, is anybody else that uncomfortable? Like, are they just wearing down? They're like getting old. Like, I don't know. I'm not sitting in any of these chairs. The simplest fix. And they're just like, this is great. Somebody listened, heard, and took action immediately. Those are quick wins. That's so easy. And a chair from Amazon, Staples, you can get the next day, you're done, right? And then my second question, I know this is off of the slides, but this is a great question, CJ. Is what is one skill set that you have that we could be utilizing differently? And I will say sometimes people are just very shy or like, no, I don't know anything. But you learn a lot about what people have to offer. And I could give you a ton of examples, but I can tell you one that just came full circle after I think Eli's worked for us for 6 years. In his stay interview, he told me that he's a photographer and he does photos for concerts. And my son is a senior and he's graduating this year. And I went to Eli and I said, hey, are you still doing photography? And he was like, yeah. And I said, will you do my son's senior pictures? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, all right, see you on a couple Saturdays from now. And so I paid him to do my kids. You don't know what you're going to learn. It's wonderful. One of my recruiters came out of a stay interview because they told me they were in school for HR, for human resources. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that. They were working in the call center. And I was like, well, let me know when you graduate. Let's keep this conversation going. I'd love to give you an opportunity to switch over into human resources. So bake them in when you can get to them. I know it's hard, and especially saying this to a lot of like HR departments of one, you're just like, yeah, well, I don't know when I'm going to find that time. But we can also admit that it is way harder to refill those spots than it is to save that person. And so the ROI is there, right? They say Anna Smith, that's my mentor. They said Anna Smith. Thank you. All right. And my last one is they won't save you. So when you talk about external hires in this hiring journey that we're on, a piece of advice I do want to give to everybody before we close out today is that you're going to make a lot of external hires for big roles as you grow. And just know that you're going to make some bad hires. And even at our size, at 10 million, 50 million, 65 and 95 million, we've made bad hires. And just be quick to let those individuals go if they're not the right fit. And the ramifications are there where they've, kind of ruffled the natives and everybody's getting a little upset. Because I can say that it's going to have more of an impact than just setting your ego aside and realizing like I made a bad hire. And so just be ready for that, and stay really aware of what you're hiring them for. Like don't just assume that they know everything, and allow them to start making changes to your company. You're great for a reason, and you're in this position. And yes, you probably need their expertise. So you want to listen to what they have to say and adapt that. But one of the lessons we learned is when we allow people to come in and change too much too quickly, we end up in a position where a lot of people that have worked really hard for a long time are trying to catch up to these changes. And then if that individual wasn't the right hire, and then they're gone. So be careful on when your big hires come in, and make sure they're right. And if they're not right, it's not an ego hit, and just let them go and move on. What questions can I answer for anyone?
Jennifer Hall asks, what does your applicant tracking interviewing process look like when you're not actively hiring? So should we kind of always be looking and keeping the communication open?
Yes, yes. So if you want to slow down your spend behind certain roles, absolutely. And that's why if you're set up your ATS and you know exactly how much spend you have, like, 15 bucks behind this one, 100 behind that one, and knowing when the last time was you updated it, you can slow some of those down or take some of them down. I don't always recommend taking them down, because you should be building that pipeline, because you just never know when, unfortunately, you're going to have some churn. But you can slow it down. You can remove a couple of your tour times to kind of funnel people into the one, so that if you typically do 4 a week, just offer 2. So I would say that's kind of my best, is just to not completely sunset something, but just like put it at a simmer, and just slow it down for yourself.
Yeah, right on. Great question, Jennifer. Another question from me. So I know something with with a small team, something that really kills momentum and just operational efficiency are those long, unnecessary meetings. So going back to that first bullet point, the staffing huddles, how do you make sure those stay really productive without letting them kind of go off the rails?
Oh, good question. So have a solid agenda, stick to it so that everybody can expect what's always going to be covered. Provide access to the tracking system. So if you're in the hiring process, allow others to have access to it. So let's say you make a Monday.com board or an Airtable board, however you do it, have them have access, because you want to eliminate questions in that meeting that they could have just looked up themselves and say it says didn't accept or rejected, and they can just see the change in status. They're not holding up the meeting to ask a question that they can answer themselves. And then just make sure they stay time bound and relevant. So don't focus on things that are too far out, because you're going to meet again next week. So what's the hot topic? Who do I need to hit on and move forward? You don't need to go way out. You're going to see everybody again next week.
Right. And if you're managing it in Google spreadsheets, like I'd imagine my company would, just having that kind of share function on
Yes.
everybody in
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no secrets in there. You're not hiding.
Cool.
Who's
So, I
applying.
mean, yeah, for sure. And so, we're heading into the new year. And again, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Roslyn. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is the last episode of the calendar year. So that's exciting for Breezy. But that being said, a lot of owners are probably, looking to hire in the new year. So, coming out of this show, what's the first step that you would recommend attendees do to implement to make sure that structure is set up for success? Should they do that immediately? Should they wait till after the holidays? What's your take on that?
Well, I definitely say wait till after the holidays and just start fresh. But
Okay.
my first one is just to evaluate current state. So get a baseline of what you already have and what you're already doing, and then evaluate where you can put something in, instead of trying to boil the ocean and create all of this at once. Which piece could you put in that is the easiest to get in? So start with current state. Like, what does my system even look like? Where am I already maybe doing something kind of similar to this, and I might just be able to improve it. But get a look at current state
Okay.
before you jump in. You need a plan. I'm a
Right.
planner, so you need a plan before you blow it all up. Get a look at it first.
For sure. And just thinking about kind of, candidates vetting themselves out and how that funnel looks as it kind of goes from, a really big top of funnel down to maybe the actual interviews. Is there a specific place you see candidates kind of vetting themselves out the most? Is it probably at that tour step, them not coming to the tour? Or like when can, a hiring team of one see some kind of paring down?
Yeah, you're going to see it in the best place possible, which is between hitting apply and showing up to the tour or the Zoom. And that's where you want to see it, because we're all aware that the way unemployment works is you're required to hit a certain amount of application bumps, right? And applying. And so it is super easy on Indeed to just hit apply to any of them, right? Resume is already there. You can apply. And then that's where us as the hiring managers will get frustrated, is then you're reading these resumes for people who are not even interested in following through at all. And that time is wasted. And so that's where when you go and you send them an email to even connect and they don't even respond, they might not even open it. And think of the amount of time you saved by them just not even responding. So yeah, your biggest drop off is people hitting apply and then actually signing up for a Zoom. And it's not because it's a Zoom, it's just because they clicked apply and they moved on. They don't even care anymore.
Right. And so you recommend not even looking at resumes until after the tour step.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that I'm sure takes a lot of
honestly, it takes a lot of bias out of it too. I know we're up out of time, but like the amount of bias that is gone is incredible. And you might have somebody who doesn't quite have what you would have assumed for a call center rep, let's just say. And on paper, you're like, no, but then they show up and they are just like the bubbliest, sweetest human. And you're just like, you would make an amazing call center rep, right? But their history is all in restaurants or something. And you may have passed right over them reading the resume, but they show up and you're just like, wow, your personality is killer for the phones. And you would have passed on them.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible insight. And like you said, we're up on time. Want to be respectful of everybody's, time during the holidays. And I really appreciate your time, Roz. And is there any kind of final thought that you'd like to leave our viewers with today?
Know your non-negotiables. That's the last one. I should probably put that in the slide. Know your non-negotiables. Nobody's perfect. You're not going to hire unicorns like they say. So just know, what are you willing to coach up on, and what are you, not willing to, so that you can move fast on hires and fill spots.
Sure. Well, Roz, this has been such a powerful session. I just want to thank you so much for all of your practical, grounded expertise and really helping eco and the whole industry just raise the bar. And thank you for sharing openly with this community about what's worked and kind of the challenges that you've experienced. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, really proud of our entire year together of learning. This is our last session for the year, and I want to continue learning with you in 2026. So please make sure to register for our first HVAC Insider Series Masterclass of the year with Weldon Long, who will be sharing strategies on how to overcome objections by presenting options that help homeowners feel comfortable saying yes. Thanks again for spending your time with us today. Keep learning, keep leading, and keep building something incredible. So I will see you all next time in the new year, my friends. Happy holidays.